Hey, welcome back to the Overflow Podcast. It's Pastor Justin along with Jeff and Austin. Good to have you on this Wednesday edition of the Overflow, the week before Thanksgiving. Guys, y'all getting ready for Thanksgiving?
Hey, we are. And we're going to be out of town for Thanksgiving this time, which is going to be, it's not unusual, but it's something we don't do often. Our boys have kind of shifted around, rearranged a little bit as far as their location. Tyler's in Atlanta. So we're actually going to leave mid-afternoon on Thanksgiving Day. And it's just a shuttle flight to Atlanta from Tri-Cities. Should be about an hour. Probably won't be up in the air that long. But I'm going to spend a couple of days with him, bring Thanksgiving to him, and then we're hoping to be able to have our tribe together for Christmas. So looking forward. It is.
Yeah, but, we're going out of town as well. We're leaving Saturday this week, and we're staying out of town till the 2nd. We haven't been out Thanksgiving to Missouri since before we got married, so I think we're going to switch it up this year, and we're going to go out there for Thanksgiving. We usually go out there for Christmas. It's usually when we go, so we're going to go for Thanksgiving this year.
That sounds good. Sounds good.
We get to make our rounds to all the different families and stuff, and so, of course, you got to load up a couple plates every place you go, though, so.
Yeah, we go down Thanksgiving Day. We're just driving to Knoxville. And then we come back, and then Dad's wanting to do something on Friday, Black Friday. So we're going to do, that's just kind of, do y'all have any like family Thanksgiving traditions, like, or maybe you've done in the past or like?
Yeah, I think for the last few years, especially since Dad passed in 2017, we've been putting the Christmas tree up at Mom's on Thanksgiving in the evening. And the thing that I'm going to miss this year, Mom having passed back in May, is when we were putting up her tree, which was an artificial tree, colored lights, things like that. It was an older tree, and you had to work a little harder to cover up some of the holes where the lights weren't. But I used to give Mom a little bowl of hooks for the ornaments.
Oh, yeah.
And it was kind of her way of therapeutically moving a hand that had been affected by a stroke. We just used to laugh and cut up, and I used to give her that to do, and she used to kind of make lighthearted fun of herself. And it's going to be something I'm going to miss this year, certainly. But that's a tradition I look back on regarding Thanksgiving. We always went to family members on Thanksgiving. I don't know that we stayed home, especially since I'd left to go to college. It always seemed like Thanksgiving was kind of a travel holiday for us.
Yeah, my grandmother, all the time, she would always get up early and cook. I mean, she's one of those that starts way early in the morning, is what she would do. And then I remember getting up, and it just smelled so good in the house. Get up and watch the parade, watch the parade a little bit, and then watch some football. Over the last few years, I haven't really got to do much. I'd say watch football is really what we've done over the last few years after we eaten or while we're eating.
You bet. So, gosh, Thanksgiving used to offer 2 games. Now you get 3.
3, I think, yeah.
And
do you get, like, is there a college or is it just NFL? I think college is on Friday, though.
I believe so. And it'll be rivalry game weekend.
Yeah.
You got the Florida States, Auburn, Alabama.
We were going to try to go to the football game on Black Friday out to Kansas City, but tickets are just crazy with them right now at the stadium. I mean, they're like $400 a piece, but thankfully, we get to go to the Missouri game on Saturday, so we'll get to go to the rivalry game. We get free tickets. We get free tickets for those, so we'll take those.
I hear Buffalo Bills tickets went out the roof over the weekend.
Listen. Every time, last few years, the Chiefs. I'm telling you, when they lost to the Bills in regular season, where did they end up? Super Bowl champions.
How much is a Missouri ticket right now?
I don't even know. Probably like $50.
Let's go now. 2 for $30.
The first 7 games they were undefeated. Now the wheels have fallen off.
2 tickets for $30. Your concessions are free.
So do y'all have like your Thanksgiving? Do y'all do like the traditional, turkey, ham, green beans?
Yeah, my stepdad's side of the family, they used to do like a bunch of fish and everything, and do like the gumbo where they put it on the table, like fry and everything. They used to do all that.
What is that? Low Country Bowl?
Yeah, that's what they would have, and the whole table be covered. So that was always fun growing up, going down there.
All right.
That's a little bit different. Y'all do just the original?
No, it's going to be turkey and ham. Here's the thing. Let me ask you this question: if you had to pick one over the other, what would it be, turkey or ham?
Oh, I'm going turkey every time.
So we had Friendsgiving this past weekend at Whitney's place, and man, they make some pretty good turkey. So I'm going with turkey.
I'm going with turkey. Now Michelle would pick ham.
I have gotten to that point, I think.
I think I'm going to pick
it's ham
deviled
for me.
eggs is what I'm going to pick.
What point are you talking about?
Okay. Hey, I've got a deviled egg story. If my wife were listening, and she may after the fact. The fact is, my first experience with a deviled egg was a lady that I had as a home health care patient who, on my way out of her house, my hands were full of product that I was taking out of her house back to the truck I was driving. And she had a deviled egg on the end of a fork, and she just shoved it in there. I had no choice in the matter.
No,
I just remember
You guys don't like it?
driving down to the end of
Deviled
that
eggs?
block, and I thought to
No
myself,
way.
I'm going to have to expel this. But the fact was, I got through it, and from that point on, kind of developed a taste for them. So I do now.
They're so good.
Dude,
I
no
love
way.
it. I
No.
can eat a whole
My
tray of
mom
them.
does a whole tray of them, but I don't know.
Usually my family makes a separate whole tray just for me and gives it to me. That's what they do.
Well, if she makes
specifically.
any on Friday and we have any left over, well, you won't be here, so don't worry about it.
Listen,
So, you know, tonight-
here's how you develop to get a tolerance for any kind of food is you just usually deep fry it is usually what you need to do. It's just deep fry something. So that, like even sushi, a lot of people don't like sushi, but once you deep fry it, and cook it, that's usually when people like sushi. So same thing with the deviled eggs, deep fried deviled egg. They got them over at the Chop House, or I believe over there.
I'm
And
learning
they're so-
something.
Speaking of deep fried, so I mean, we all eat turkey on Thanksgiving, right?
Right.
So what's the way you like? Do you like it oven?
Oven.
No, you don't even know what you're talking about. Smoked or deep fried?
Ooh, put them in that order.
Which way?
Deep fried, smoked, and then out of the oven. Deep
that's
fried
the way
turkey
I'm
just
doing it.
I mean, I like smoked, but
Have you ever had deep fried?
I don't think I have. If I
Okay,
have, then I don't
tonight-
remember it.
Okay, so Wednesdays is Wednesday Night Connect. So the youth, they're doing their own Thanksgiving.
Mm-hmm.
So when we left today, they've deep fried 2 turkeys. You need to go
gonna
get
go
you
try
a
it.
piece,
I'm
and
gonna
I
go try it.
promise you'll never eat oven roasted. Now it's a little bit dangerous to deep fry turkey because it can
I've seen
blow
the
up on you.
video. I've
But
seen the
when
video.
you eventually when you hear the initial sound of that turkey going into that grease, it'll unnerve you a little bit. So,
yeah. But we did it last year. That's where we go, Knoxville, Michelle's family, and they deep fried one. And I mean, I can, keto all the way, man. You can have all the turkey you want.
That's right.
It's just like, it was really good. So, okay. So, you talked about traveling, Thanksgiving is the busiest
it is.
time to travel. And here's what's interesting. So you're traveling on Thursday, flying down. It's not busy on Thursday,
No, it's not.
but I was just looking this up before we done the podcast, but busy travel days are Tuesday and Wednesday before Thanksgiving,
Right.
and Sunday after Thanksgiving is the busiest day to travel.
That's the
Okay.
day that we're coming back and driving is Sunday.
Yeah, you won't be back until Tuesday probably. But and here's another thing I saw: winter holidays. So from Thanksgiving, Christmas, New Year's, we spend the most money that we do all year long for holidays and things like that. Here's how much we spend per person in America during the winter holidays is $875 per person. I mean, think about that. You 350 something million, $875 on winter, Thanksgiving, Christmas per person. That's how much is spent in America.
Gee whiz.
All I've got to say is I hope I'm getting a good gift this year. I can't wait.
It's like I'm reading that. I read that today, and I'm like, man, I've got the short end of the stick. My family, it's like my kids get way over that, But
Do I
we
want
try
mine
to
in
wait.
one gift, or I want it sliced into smaller portions?
And here's another interesting thing, which will kind of lead us into what we're talking about. This past week on this past Sunday on Black Friday last year, spending on Black Friday alone, just that one day, the day Friday after Thanksgiving, $9.8 billion on one day.
I believe it.
Yeah, I do too. But that's still a staggering number. I mean, any way you look at it, my goodness gracious.
So Sunday we talked about, we're just following along in the text. It was kind of a special day for our church. It was our opportunity to celebrate one of the biggest days of our church mission wise is, OCC, Operation Christmas Child, Samaritan's Purse, Franklin Graham ministry, where they get these shoe boxes, get these gifts, put them in these different shoe boxes, and then they send them all over the world with the gospel inside. And so our church was able to do, 733 boxes, which that's the most we've ever done that I know of. And so, we were able to celebrate those, pray over them, and kind of, commission those out. But on Sunday, it was an uncomfortable subject. To me, it's the most uncomfortable subject in a church. And it's uncomfortable for people to listen to it, and it's uncomfortable for the pastors to preach on it. And it was the subject of money, and we talked about that, about how that, Solomon has been on this chase, this search, this quest for purpose and happiness and satisfaction. What he says, life under the sun, which means God's not really in the equation. He's just looking at the horizontal view of life, just the earthly things, temporal things. Don't really have, God in his mind. He's kind of pushed God to the outside. He's not surrendered. And so he's searching all these things. He's tried, pleasure. He's tried relationships. He's tried success, work. He even tried religion, worship. And we come to Ecclesiastes 5. We've been in this series about 6 weeks. And he says that he tried money. And, it's where we are. I mean, over the last couple of years, we've kind of felt the, I guess the tightness and the tension that money causes in our life, because, the dollar in America is not worth as much as it used to. You go to the grocery store anymore, and, it's not, you walk out with just a few items and you spent $50, so it's not, people are hurting for money, people are struggling. But, what we talked about was, and he gave some great points that we looked at, is just how we can't allow, money to crave it, to drive our thoughts, dominate our actions, dictate our emotions. We've got to push that stuff aside. And, the Bible is full of verses. A lot of people don't even know that, in your Bible, there's 66 books, there's, I think, 1,189 chapters in your Bible from Genesis to Revelation, but over 2,000 times, God inspired it and wrote it. It speaks about money. Mm-hmm. It speaks about wealth. It speaks about possessions.
And you said also that that's what Jesus talked about the most, is money as well.
Yeah. I mean, 1 out of 7 times when he spoke, and, they say over half his parables were about money at some point. He does talk about that. So it is an important topic. It hits us where we live. Because when we look at our checkbooks, it's really kind of a mirror of our heart, what we love, what we value most. And so it can be eye-opening, it can be convicting, it can be very uncomfortable to talk about. But, it's what we talked about these empty promises that wealth leaves and money leaves. And so we talked a little bit about these points, the love of money, the lies of money. And then he came back and said, here's the life that can set you free from that love and lies. And so let's talk a little bit about, this subject that is kind of a tough subject to talk about.
It is, but I think you've already mentioned it, and it's so true. There is a direct correlation between treasure and heart, mm-hmm. as to how that all plays out in the life of a human being like that. There was a statement that you made Sunday morning, and it was one of those, when you said it, Anita kind of gouged me because it was powerful. You said, consider the time that we worry or complain over what we don't have as compared to thanking God for what we do have. And that just kind of puts you in a moment of introspection where you just kind of pause and think, all right. And the Bible is not diminishing our responsibility to be financially, frugal and responsible, overextending ourselves. The modern day word would be credit, which is a trap that many people can fall in. You find yourself, in 5 figures of credit card debt, and you may have more than one card. So all of those things, we just need to consider, but nowhere in Scripture, and I think this was one of the first points you made, does it tell us that to have material wealth is wrong. And God will choose those whom he desires to bless. He desires for us to work in order that we can eat and support family, to be responsible. I think one of the things, though, and Austin, tell me how this may hit you, is for what we receive financially, is God not allowing us the opportunity? In other words, for what we receive, should we not be already considering how we give back? In other words, for what we're able to make, should we as Christians not very quickly determine what it would be then that we can give back to? The Lord obviously gets first precedent there. But do we consider how and where and to whom we give as God blesses us?
I think it's one of those things where you kind of think of like you get a lump sum of money and then you kind of get excited at first, right? You're like, okay, so I've got all this. There's some people that just, they're ready to spend it, ready to get rid of it, first time they get it. I've been in that position before with money as well, but I have done scenarios where I felt like I've been blessed of a situation financially because of maybe something that I have done as a steward. But here's the thing, you're not always blessed just because you steward somebody. Sometimes it's a test, more than likely, I feel, when you are blessed with money, to what you will do with that money. Now that I've gotten older, in receiving more money substantially, in our pay, of how can we then use that money for God's purposes and how can we give back? I think I talked about it not too long ago on a couple podcasts, was the concept of tithing. A lot of people, my generation, believe it or not, the topic of tithe got brought up this past week at Friendsgiving, and some of them didn't even know what the word was when it came up on, like, one of the card games was playing the word tithe. They didn't really know what that meant.
Okay.
And so I think people, whenever you get that substantial amount of money and giving back and what to do with it, that should be a first thought. It should be, you'll hear Dr. Ben Carson talked about it a couple of years ago. That should be the first. He was big on tithing, the first 10%, and it should always go to the Lord. And I don't think a lot of us think like that when we get like a substantial amount of money, or just even a paycheck per week, with some of our lives.
I think that's very, very true. And I think that type of perspective enables us to keep things in their proper order. If we do that. Interesting that Dr. Ben Carson, I'm all about Dr. Carson, and but certainly a good word there. How prone are we as human beings when we consider giving, having been blessed? Are we more preoccupied with what is left behind for us as compared to what we give to other people? Do we find ourselves sometimes, already thinking about, gosh, I've got to make sure that I leave enough behind for old number one?
It's intimidating that even when you first start to even trying to give or give it away, and it's a big step that you got to take. It's a huge step. I literally was there a couple of years ago. I did not want to give any money. I was so scared that I would not have enough to live, or if something came up, be able to make means for that situation. Say, my tires or something gave out on my vehicle, and I couldn't do anything, and be frustrated that I gave that money away and then had nothing in return to show for it.
Right. I think it just behooves us to be willing to release, certainly to God, what is His part, and the tithe. And of course, not everybody would see it this way, but the tithe that's your standard. And then some people believe that giving in and above that is your gift to God, a gracious gift.
Yeah, and I think too, what we have to understand is, God don't need your money.
No.
And another thought is it's His anyway. So the 10%, I'm giving it back to Him, but 100% of it's His.
How many times did Solomon make that reference? But it is a gift of God.
Yeah, and that's what he said, and that was the whole point. that we can love money and we can believe the lies of money, but the life that sets us free from that bondage, because the truth is if you worship something, it becomes your master. And that was the whole point. You can't serve God and money together. You can't straddle the fence. You can't say, I serve money and I serve God. Jesus said you cannot do that. It's not possible, because you will love the one and you'll hate the other. You'll be devoted to one and you'll despise the other. And then that's why, Paul said that many have wandered from the faith because again, it goes back to what Jesus said, you're devoted and you despise one. So these people that he's talking about in 1 Timothy that love money, it wasn't the money was the problem. It was the love of it, the greed of it, the pursuing of it, the chasing after it, the craving of wanting more and more and more. Because again, Solomon said in verse number 10 of chapter 5 that it never satisfies. You can't ever get enough. He should know he had $2.2 trillion, back in that day. That's what it was equivalent to today, So he understood he had everything. He saved it all. He could lavish parties, all this stuff. His whole, temple was built in gold. So it wasn't like he didn't know how to spend it or all that. But the whole point is you're going to be devoted to one and you're going to despise the other. You're going to love one. So you can't serve because it becomes your master. And that's the whole point. We don't want it to master us. It creates bondage. You become a slave to it. And the only person that we're to become a slave to or a servant to is Jesus.
That's right.
And so to have this idea, well, okay, I worked 40 hours a week this week, and this is my salary, and I get that you did that and you worked hard to get that. But again, here's the question I would like to ask you: who gave you the health and strength to do that? Because you didn't get out of bed by yourself.
That's so true.
God's the one that allows you to do that. Now you take care of yourself and things like that. So who gave you the mind? Who brought you, to be an engineer? Who gave you that? Not everybody's made that way, So yes, God does bless. God has blessed others. But here's what I would like to say too: with more blessing comes more responsibility.
It does.
So let me ask you this too. So this week, since we talked about this topic this past Sunday, I've been listening to my coworkers and stuff at work. Of course, I work in a commission-only job right now, and every day that they come in, they set their goals, or they come in a good mood, try to pep talk themselves, that they're going to make money for the day and everything. But they just that's all it is. All day long is they just talk about money from this, money from that, what's the goal, or how much more can I make and everything. And it's just constant, and it's just all day long is all I hear. One of those situations, though, is I try to think personally for myself, where I've been there now a couple of years and everything. I don't have the hunger like I did when I first started. It was exciting because it was a different kind of money when I first started, but now it's more consistent. I try to just be on a consistent level, and I want to do good with what I earn. Now, here's another thing that I talk and I ask, and is it bad for me to want to make more money if I know that I'm going to make the right decisions with that money? Would it be a bad thing? And so I have those thoughts in my head through the week, is like, these guys are hungry for money. What are they going to use their money for? Are they going to give it back or serve with it? Me, in my sense, is how could I better myself and steward myself with my money in order to give back more of that money?
I think that's a great question and a great consideration. I wouldn't see that there's anything wrong with that, because it sounds to me like you have guardrails up early, and what you're basically asking for are just better opportunities to provide for Amber, and to whatever you may be able to provide at home that might provide. We're not talking about going over the top with things that are lavish, but just to be more convenient. Those kind of things save time. Time saved is time that could be spent with your wife. All of those things can channel back into some areas that are very, very healthy.
I think one of the things I struggle with is trying to stay humble in those situations, but I also want to help my coworkers in a way that I like working with them, to also humble them and do the correct with money as well.
You bet.
And try to be an example in some way, in some form, without trying to get them boasting to try to get me to change my ways and my mindset. You see what I'm saying?
Well, I don't think there's anything wrong with like setting goals and stuff like that, but I guess here's the thing. Okay, so you set your goals. You say, okay, I'm going to, do this. My goal is to make this money this month, so I'm going to sell this many phones or whatever. But then what happens if you don't hit those goals? Are you letting it define, get your identity from that, or are you trusting in that? It goes back to the thing about tithing, 10%. Okay, so what you're going to do is it's all God's, all 100%. He gave you the health, strength, the ability, and grace you to be able to do it. It's a gift from God. But here's another point is, so you give 10% back to God. That means you're trusting Him to take care of you with the 90%. So my question is, are you going to trust God to take care of you with 90%, or are you going to trust you to take care of yourself with 100%?
That's a good question.
Who are you going to trust more? And here's what I believe. I believe that if you have it, as just dollar signs you're chasing, then you're really not going to do ministry as a Christian that God desires, because it's not about the dollar signs. It's just like, this is totally different, but it's just like on Sunday morning. If I'm all about like the number of people that are there, what happens is I turn growth into the goal instead of God and people. And so I think if money is the goal, then it kind of distorts really the purpose behind, because you just see everybody as a tool to use to get what you want. And so you're not really ministering to people like Jesus would desire. And, again, the whole thing is, who are we going to trust? That here's what's crazy is when you read Jesus, when he first preached, he preached about the gospel. That was the first message he preached in Matthew 4:17. He said, repent, for the kingdom of heaven is at hand. The next chapter, he starts his, preaching tour, and he preaches his first sermon. And in his first sermon to preach, he preaches about money.
Sermon on the Mount.
And he gets halfway through it, and right in the middle of it is when he talks about money, possessions, treasure. But here's what he says about that. He says, consider the birds. They don't store up in barns. They don't, they don't sow, they don't reap, but I take care, your heavenly Father, he takes care of them. Are you not more valuable than they? And then he talks about seeking first the kingdom of God. He talks about considering the lilies of the field and how that, God takes care of those. And then he says, these are what the Gentiles seek. These is what people away from God, they chase after these things. And here's what he says, seek first the kingdom of God, and then all these other things are going to be added into you. So the idea with money is, to me, it's a trust issue. It's, I can hoard it all up and keep it all up myself, or not that I have to give it all away. Because that's not smart. The Bible talks about saving money and investing and being wise stewards with your money. There's nothing wrong with that. But as we saw last week, this, it's wrong for us to save it all. Like we're hoarding it up, like we're trusting it. So we're not going to let any of it go. We're not going to be generous with it. We're not going to give any of it to people that are in need or to the church or to whatever. We're going to just hoard it all for us. And it's about building up our kingdom versus expanding and building the kingdom of God. And that was the whole point, because the truth is, when you die and you go meet the Lord, it don't matter what your bank account is. It could be the higher than Elon Musk's bank account. It ain't going to matter when you stand before God.
Well, the whole idea that, and you brought it up on Sunday morning, was, for us to think that we need to tear down the barn we have only to build up a bigger one so that we can store up what we have and have the room for it. Again, I just go back to the mini storage picture in my mind of, these places they spring up everywhere. And if there's not a more accurate representation of excess, then people who are renting storage units to keep what they don't have room for in their own houses. And I know as people move, sometimes you just need a place to temporarily house some things like that. But it's amazing. You don't have enough room for it at home. So you're going to rent a building on a monthly basis to keep what you don't have room for at home. It almost compels us to think, goodness gracious, think about what you're doing. Solomon had this saying a little earlier on in Ecclesiastes, and I think I may have used this at North Campus, the fact where he talked about, you have eyes in your head, and sometimes what God is trying to tell us is this: just look around and take an inventory here. Take stock of what you see and ask yourself the question, is this not over the top? You've got ears. Listen to what you're saying. Listen to what other people are saying to you. Isn't this an opportunity to reevaluate where we are? And God can have you extract some creative ways of bringing us back into His way of thinking like that.
But don't you think, though, that He talked about these things that are lies with money, like that money tells us these lies. We talked about 3 that, it can solve all your problems. I mean, because most of us think if I had X amount of dollars, I wouldn't have any more problems.
A lot of people say that, like, if only I hit the lottery.
Oh, gosh.
And then, like, you see that survey that gets passed around all the time is where they followed some lottery winners and it's gone.
Hey,
it's all gone, or the cause of death and suicide or anything like that.
The principle, okay, let's just take the lottery for instance, like that. The principle of acquiring something for nothing, it really is a game of chance, is not biblical at all. But the question that I have wrestled with in my mind, and I really think I know the answer, is, Jeff, what would you do if you hit the Powerball and you ended up with all of it? What now is right up there to billion, in some cases like that. The answer to that, to me, is quite clear. You ain't going to hit the Powerball. Number one, I ain't going to play it. But number two, even if I did, I think God knows my frame well enough to know I could not be trusted with that kind of wealth. I just couldn't. And the lie of the enemy, Justin, and you brought this up the other morning, and I just remember thinking to myself, this is so true, is that we are convinced, we are convinced that if we had enough money to cover all of our expenses consistently, let's just say that life for us was auto withdrawal, and we never had to worry. The reserve was always there and the bills were always paid. We in our mind think that would take care of life for us. And the fact of the matter is, that's only one factor of life. And because if money covered our expenses and we did not have to worry about paying bills and being on time and things like that, there would be so many other things that would probably out of balance, and we would still find ourselves in deep weeds.
But just look at, like, the celebrities. Look at, the people that have money that we all probably would wish we could just one time. I mean, if you think about, like, some of these basketball players making hundreds of millions of dollars, and it's like, it's never enough. Celebrities, I mean, they have money that they could swim in, but it's like, it's never enough. They never find happiness in that.
Oh, goodness gracious. The number of times where we've been reading in the news fairly recently where people would take their own life. And the suicide rate is too high as it is. But sometimes we are tempted to step back when we hear those news. Tragic. And we ask ourselves the question, based on their wealth, my goodness, what on earth could have, they seem to have it all. Well, we're only looking at it through, one angle, and that's,
they have what the world wants.
They have what the world wants, and as has been stated, obviously it wasn't near enough.
No, because
nor will it be.
It can't fill the void.
No,
it never satisfied. It never secures your future, even though it's smart to have, but it can be gone in a moment's time. I mean, it really can be, and that's what he said there, and it's not always going to be there. I mean, you're not going to take it with you. I mean, think about how, and he even gets, and I'll probably get into it a little bit this Sunday, actually, because he kind of talks about, like, this coming Sunday, he talks about death. I mean, this guy, I mean, if you just read Ecclesiastes and saw this guy, you would not think he wrote the book of Proverbs.
I know.
Because he is so far away from God that he thinks that life is just basically, you're born, you get a job somewhere in the middle, you work all your life, and then you die, and that's it. That's what he says. And that's what I'm talking about this Sunday, is that's a guy who doesn't see that there's something beyond this life. And that's what riches do. That's what, success does. That's what accomplishments and hard work. And I'm not saying any of these things are bad, but when that's all you live for, this is all you have.
That's right.
And for us as believers, it's what's after this life that's what we're living for. I mean, that's where our mind should be. That's our destiny, not just, okay, we're going to die one day. Yeah, we all are going to die. Yeah. But when you see it Sunday and we talk about it, he starts basically, he says, well, if the wise die and the fool dies, what does it matter to be a wise person? Then he says, if the rich man dies just like the poor man, then what does it matter if you're rich? If the good and righteous people die just like the unrighteous and wicked people die, then what is the point of being good and righteous? It's sometimes hard to read this guy because he's missing the point. Because again, God's not in the picture, and he's trying everything in life to fulfill the void that only God can fill.
Living life under the sun.
Yeah, that's what it is. It is completely living
life under the sun
without God.
Yeah, there was a good scenario. I listened to Jonathan Pocaluto's video the other day. I watched it. He's going through Ecclesiastes right now on one of his studies, and he gave this scenario of somebody that has the money that's in a church that he knew or grew up in at one point, and the guy had wealth, a lot of wealth to him. But what he did with the wealth was he was building houses and he had nice vehicles and everything. But what he was doing with those things was he was feeding people off the streets and stuff, and making a whole kitchen just to bring the families over and everything, to feed those are hurting and, widowed and everything within the church. And he would take his nicer vehicles that was bigger and everything. He was picking up people and taking them to church. And some people were talking about that he knows being jealous of those people within, but it's a matter of what he was doing with that wealth to contribute to God's kingdom in the end. And so, like you talked about, it's not a bad thing to get money from God. It's a great thing. It's a great tool that he gives us, but what we do with it is what it really comes down to.
Absolutely.
Well, that's what he said. He said the hard work, the wealth that you have, he said to enjoy it, to be able to enjoy it, it's a gift of God. And that's what we have to understand, that everything God gives us, the money, the life that he gives us, the breath and, the ability to be able to walk and talk and, go to work. It's all a gift from God. And so we do get a reward from that. If we give, Jesus said that you're not going to be a debtor. If you give, see that I'll open up the windows of heaven and pour you out a blessing. You won't be able to even receive it. So you want your barns filled. It's not about storing them up necessarily. It's about giving and letting God store them for you because he can trust you. It's like the parable of the talents. You remember? Absolutely. He gave, 1 10, 1 5, I think, and 1 1. And the guy with 10 went out and got 10 more. The guy with 5 went out and got 5 more. And the guy with 1 went and dug it and hid it and saved it. And what did he say to the first 2? He said, well, done thou good and faithful servant. You were faithful to this, and we'll give you more. What did he say with the guy that hid it, saved it, and didn't do anything with it? He said, you're a wicked fool. So that's what we have to look at. That's the economy of God. And anybody that gives to God, that is content with the things that God gives him, the Bible is very clear. God won't be a debtor to you. He will take care of you. If he takes care of birds, he takes care of the lilies of the valley, he'll take care of people that are living for him. Hey, we want to thank you for listening to the podcast today. And we're going to take a break next week because of Thanksgiving. So we want to wish you a happy Thanksgiving, and we want you to enjoy it with your family. Thank you for tuning in this week. Share and like this with somebody. It'll probably be posted on Thursday, tomorrow. God bless you. Have a good rest of the week. Happy Thanksgiving.